The threat receiver screams before he even sees it. 6 o'clock, lock tone, close range. The senior pilot's hand freezes over the throttle. Seconds ago, this sky belonged to him alone. Now, behind him, on his own tail, in his own kill zone, something has just appeared out of nothing, and every instinct in his body is telling him it's already too late to do anything about it. The scene is the South China Sea, somewhere over open, contested water. A U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress is flying a routine long-range patrol through international airspace, the kind of mission this bomber has flown for over 70 years. It is a massive aircraft, slow by fighter standards, with a radar cross-section that gives away its position from a long way out. Its job tonight is not to fight. Its job is to fly through airspace that international law says belongs to everyone, and remind the region of that fact simply by being there. Not everyone agrees with that idea. From an airstrip on a reef island built up out of the water specifically for this purpose, a People's Liberation Army Air Force J-16 fighter is already climbing to intercept. The pilot in the cockpit is a senior captain, experienced, confident, and following a standing order. Get close, make the American crew uncomfortable, send a message without firing a shot. He has flown this exact profile before, more than once. Every time, the American aircraft holds its course. It does not react. It does not divert. To him, that has only ever meant one thing. He is about to find out it means something else entirely. His wingman holds back in a wide orbit while ground control feeds range and bearing updates over a secure channel. The senior captain has flown this exact intercept enough times that it barely takes conscious thought anymore. Climb out, vector onto the contact, close the distance, make the pass, report back to base. It is routine, and routine breeds confidence, and confidence, in this line of work, is a resource that tends to run out much faster than the man flying with it ever expects. The J-16 closes the distance fast. On radar, the B-52 is impossible to miss, a slow-moving giant with no visible escort and no jamming activity. The senior captain checks his scope one more time. Empty sky, aside from his target. He pushes the throttle forward. His first pass is close, closer than procedure calls for. He levels off, just off the B-52's nose, cuts hard across its flight path, and the wake turbulence hits the bomber like a fist. Inside the cockpit, the aircraft shudders. Warning lights flicker across the instrument panel. The co-pilot's hands tighten on the controls, but nobody raises their voice. The aircraft commander keys the radio and reports the intercept in a flat, procedural tone. The same tone he'd used to report a fuel check. The J-16 pilot circles back for a second run. This time, he closes even tighter, inside 10 feet by his own estimate, fast enough that the bomber crew can make out the shape of his helmet through the canopy. It is an aggressive, borderline maneuver, the kind that leaves almost no margin for error at that closing speed. He holds the pass for a full second longer than the first, then breaks off hard, banking away with a satisfied grin behind his oxygen mask. He keys his radio to ground control on the island base. One contact, he reports. No escort, no reaction. The response comes back clean. Radar shows nothing else in the area, just the bomber and him. The senior captain feels the confidence build. He lines up for a third pass. Tighter still. Close enough now that the B-52 crew can read the tail number on his jet as it flashes by. The bomber crew does not flinch. They log the intercept, note the range, note the maneuver, and keep flying straight and level, exactly on their assigned track. In the back of the aircraft, the electronic warfare officer runs through the same checklist he runs every time this happens, confirming there is still no active jamming, no missile guidance radar, nothing beyond a fighter flying too close for comfort. It is uncomfortable. It is not by itself a reason to change course. To the J-16 pilot, this composure is almost insulting. He has thrown everything he has at this aircraft short of making contact, and the response has been nothing but silence and steady altitude. He keys his radio again, half expecting some kind of reaction this time, and gets the same flat acknowledgement as before. He does not understand it. He is circling for a fourth pass when the answer finally reaches him. And by then, it is already far too late to matter. The J-16 is a twin-engine multi-role fighter, a heavily upgraded derivative of an older Soviet-designed airframe. carrying an active electronically scanned array radar and long-range air-to-air missiles capable of engaging targets well beyond visual range. It also carries a full electronic warfare suite and a respectable payload across both air-to-air and strike roles, which is exactly why the People's Liberation Army Air Force leans on it so heavily for missions like this one. On paper, it is a serious platform, fast, well-armed, and difficult to outmaneuver in a straight fight. China classifies it as a 4.5 generation aircraft, a designation that reflects real upgrades in sensors and weapons, but stops short of true 5th generation stealth. That distinction, radar signature, is about to matter more than anything else in this engagement. A fighter can carry the best sensors and the longest range missiles in the world, but none of it matters if the other side's aircraft never shows up on the display in the first place. The pilot flying it tonight is good. He has trained for exactly this kind of intercept, run it a dozen times before, and executed it well. What he has not trained for, because there is no real way to train for it, is an opponent his radar simply cannot see coming. 11,000 feet above the two aircraft locked in their slow-motion standoff, an F-22 Raptor has been holding station in silence since well before the Chinese fighter ever left the ground. It arrived early, climbed high, and has not made a sound since. No radar emissions, no radio calls, no visible signature on any system the Chinese side controls. It has simply been there the entire time, watching every pass unfold from a position nobody below even knows to look for. The F-22 is built around one core advantage, a radar cross-section, so small that most air defense and airborne intercept systems in the world cannot reliably detect it, even at close range. Its airframe shape, its internal weapons bays, and its radar-absorbing coatings all work toward the same single goal, staying off other people's screens entirely. It carries an advanced integrated sensor suite that lets its pilot build a complete picture of the airspace passively, without ever switching on a radar signal of his own that anyone else could detect. To the ground station on the island, the sky above the B-52 shows exactly one aircraft. To the J-16's own onboard radar, the same picture. Nobody down there knows they have been sharing the sky with a second fighter this entire time. And that gap between what is actually up there and what shows up on a screen is precisely the point of the aircraft. It is not a fighter built to win a fair fight. It is built to make sure the fight was never fair to begin with. The American pilot has watched all 4 passes unfold without moving an inch, tracking every maneuver, logging every range estimate, waiting. If you're new to this channel and you want to see how these stealth versus 4th generation matchups keep playing out, this is a good moment to hit subscribe, because the pattern that's about to unfold here shows up again and again once you know what to look for. He lets the J-16 line up for its next run, confident, unhurried, still convinced the sky belongs to him alone. Then the American pilot pushes the stick forward and starts a slow, quiet descent. No afterburner, no radio traffic, no warning of any kind. Over the next few minutes, the F-22 comes down through the altitude blocks in a controlled dive, gravity doing most of the work, and levels off directly behind the J-16, close enough to be well inside effective engagement range, completely undetected the whole way down. The Chinese pilot is lining up for a 4th pass on the bomber, still smiling, still convinced he is the only fighter in the sky, with an aircraft now sitting on his tail that he has absolutely no way of seeing. Then the American pilot makes a choice. He does not fire. He does something that will land harder. He switches off the low observable posture that has kept him hidden this entire flight and lets his radar go active, just long enough for the J-16's threat receiver to catch the return. Inside the Chinese cockpit, every warning light on the panel goes red at once. The threat tone locks in. 6 o'clock, close range, fire control radar. The senior captain's head snaps around toward his mirror, and there, sitting exactly where his threat receiver says it should be, is an aircraft he did not know was anywhere near him. Close enough to make out the shape of the canopy. Close enough that in a real engagement, the outcome would already be decided. He reacts on instinct. He brakes hard, dumps countermeasures, and pushes the throttle to full power, trying to put distance between himself and whatever has just materialized behind him. Flares and chaff scatter across the night sky behind his jet, burning off in seconds, doing nothing at all against an aircraft that never fired a missile in the first place. The F-22 does not chase. It does not need to. It simply holds position, matching the turn with no visible effort at all. Because in this matchup, distance was never the variable that mattered. For a few seconds, the senior captain's cockpit is pure noise, alarms, radio chatter to his wingman, his own breathing loud in his mask. Then, gradually, the threat tone fades, not because the danger has passed, but because the F-22 pilot has eased back, satisfied that the point has already been made. As the J-16 finally levels off 2 miles clear, engines still working hard, the F-22 pulls up alongside it, wingtip to wingtip, same altitude, same speed, close enough for both pilots to see each other clearly through their canopies. Nothing about the American jet's flight path looks rushed. It settles into formation the way a car eases up next to another one at a red light, unhurried, unbothered, in absolutely no doubt about who controls the pace of this encounter. The Chinese pilot looks over. For a moment, he doesn't process what he's actually seeing. Then it registers. The same aircraft that just appeared behind him out of nowhere is now sitting calmly at his wingtip, having covered the distance without any apparent urgency at all. The American pilot looks back, calm, unhurried, entirely in control of an encounter the other man didn't even know had started until it was already over. There is no radio exchange, no gesture needed to make the point. The American pilot holds formation for a few seconds, long enough to be unmistakably seen, then eases off, banks away, and climbs back into the same silence he came from. One moment he is there. The next, every scope in the area shows nothing at all. The J-16 turns back toward its home base without attempting another pass at the bomber. His wingman closes formation alongside him for the flight home, and neither pilot says much over the radio for the rest of the transit. The senior captain lands, taxis in, shuts down, and has to explain in his debrief exactly what happened. 4 aggressive intercepts on an American bomber, a full defensive reaction against an aircraft that never fired a shot, and a threat radar contact from a jet his own systems never once picked up before it was already in position. His commanding officer reads the report twice before asking a single question. How close was the other aircraft before your system saw it? The senior captain does not have a good answer. It is not an easy report to write. It is an even harder one to read. Somewhere over the same stretch of water, the B-52 continues on its assigned track, straight and level, exactly as it was before any of this began. Its crew logs the intercept, files their own report, and moves on to the next leg of the patrol like it was any other night, because for them, in every way that matters, it was. For the pilot who spent that flight trying to intimidate it, the lesson landed a lot harder than any of his 4 passes ever did, and it is one he will be thinking about for a long time after this particular patrol is over. Here's what this encounter really comes down to. On paper, the J-16 is a capable, well-armed fighter, and against most opponents in the region, that reputation holds up fine. It carries real firepower, real range, and a crew skilled enough to execute a tight, aggressive intercept exactly as ordered. But radar signature is not something extra hardware can fix in the middle of a fight. Against a genuinely low observable aircraft, being fast and well-armed does not matter if you never see it coming until it has already made its decision for you. That's the real story behind stealth technology. It's not about winning a dogfight after contact has already been made. It's about controlling the entire encounter before the other side even knows one is happening, deciding when to be seen and when not to be, and using that choice as the actual weapon. A missile is only ever the final step. The advantage that decides most of these encounters gets built long before either side gets close enough to fire one. And if you've been following this channel, you know that gap between 4th and 5th generation air power keeps showing up in these matchups, over and over, in scenario after scenario. It's rarely about raw speed or missile count. It almost always comes down to who gets seen first, and who gets to choose the terms of the engagement before the other pilot even realizes there's a decision to be made. So here's the question for the comments. If you were flying that J-16 and your threat receiver lit up with no warning at all, what would you have done differently in that cockpit? Would you have broken away sooner, held your position, or done exactly what he did? There's no single right answer, and that's exactly what makes these matchups worth breaking down in detail. Drop your answer below. Let me know which matchup you want broken down next. And if you want more of these deep dives into modern air combat, hit subscribe, because there's a lot more of this coming.